You're listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner.
This is Zoom the TBT of Charge and Hayner, and we are doing our Super Regional Preview Show live. I am at West Banco Arena, Wheeling, West Virginia. Charge, wish you were here. This is going to be an electric atmosphere. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Obviously, we're down to 7 teams in the TBT. Have our next quarterfinal game to see who joins Heartfire in the Final Four. So I'm amped up, ready to go see some great games.
Yeah, let's get right into this, actually. So let's talk about, first of all, how everybody got here, and hopefully that little thing moves away. There we go. So we have we're down to our final 7 teams. Obviously, Heartfire did their thing against the Aftershocks, becoming the first team to make the Final Four and qualify for Philly. But then we also have, today, we're going to be here having Boeheim's Army, the 2 seed out of the Syracuse Regional, defending their home turf and knocking off the defending champ, Blue Collar U, versus Heard That, the home team here. Should be a fun crowd. And then, of course, also tomorrow, Friday Veers versus Nati in Dayton. And the number 1 Gutter Cat gang, the upset, even though they're 1 seed, beating the home team, Deville, to meet Bleed Green at historic Freedom Hall tomorrow. Charge, this road to getting here, how exciting has this been so far for you?
Yeah, it's been a great tournament, not only because we have 7 great teams sitting here remaining, but I think it's been kind of a high impact tournament this year. We've seen teams come out of nowhere, like Indy Rising, D3 took Mass Street up there. I mean, there's been so many teams who flew under the radar that have absolutely stepped up. So, we knew some of the known quantities we were going to get, but some of the unknown quantities we got and some of the exciting games we were able to witness have been just fantastic.
Definitely. So let's get right into this. Let's start with this Heard That versus Boeheim's team. Now, the advantage, obviously, is Boeheim's Army got the 1 day of rest. They did not have to play yesterday. Of course, they spent that entire day bus riding from Syracuse to Wheeling, West Virginia. Charge, which would you rather have, the day off or the bus ride?
Yeah, the day off sounds a lot more appealing. I'm sure it wasn't a day off. I'm sure they were studying, watching film, knowing Boeheims. I'm sure they used their time wisely on the way down. But anytime you got to jump on a bus, what's about 6 hours or so, and drive
7,
to
I think.
Wheeling, West Virginia, of all places. I'd much rather have the day off and be able to be comfortable and take advantage of that time.
Yeah, definitely. So looking a little bit at this, let's talk about how these teams got there. So I have been at every West Virginia game. It's been an electric regional. West Virginia had that tough fight against the Du Bois Dream. Heard That with an interesting game against Sioux Crew. Of course, the other side, we had the Cause teams challenge LS Florida and Sideline with a great battle in that regional semi, setting up a regional final of Heard That and Sideline. And what's interesting about that, having watched that Charge, was interesting to see that Sideline size or lack of size finally got to them against the army of Heard That bigs.
Yeah, I think this whole bracket was pretty interesting. I think there's a lot of people who doubted Heard That. Obviously, on our original preview shows, we said Heard That would be here in the end. A little surprised they did take down the Sideline or the ALS, but Heard That they're the grittiest team in the West Virginia region. They go out there, they play hard, they know how to win, they know how to get it done, they play their roles right, and so Sideline, obviously stellar team, been stellar for a lot of years, but haven't quite been able to get over that hump, especially the last couple have had some close games, some tight games, and things not fall their way. So I'm not surprised at all that Heard That was able to pull this off, especially with confidence and the level of upgrades they've put in this year, especially with Rob Gray.
Well, especially the defense too. We have a clip of them talking about that and how great their defense is. Let's let them talk about the defense's aptitude the team has.
Plus 16 in the paint, plus 7 on the boards. Is Heard That's new identity just to basically be the boys on the block? This is the 3rd straight game you guys have just basically dominated the paint.
Yeah, we watched Blue Collar U win it all last year just by being tougher than everybody. So we went out, we got the scoring, we got the shooters, we got the big guys now that just, in the paint, we want to win the paint, we want to win on the 3-point line. We don't want anybody to beat us anywhere, and I think we've done a good job of that so far this tournament.
Holding Marcus, Keenan, Rice to a combined 23 points, forcing Marcus to shoot 5 of 15, while also shutting off the water for us, a team, only letting them hurt you. I mean, how were you able to dial in defense like that? That's just an insane stopping of an all-TBT backcourt.
Yeah, well, we watched film. Marcus Reed helped us. He's our assistant coach. We watched film. We came up with a game plan. We decided, hey, every time those guys come off a pick and roll, we're just going to double them. The game plan was try to make everybody else beat us because, we know what those two can do if they get going. And fortunately for us, they didn't get going tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, it was really surprising to watch that game because Marcus King went 5 of 15. He's one of the best players in this event. Probably the best closing player you can think of in this region. So shutting him off, making him shoot like that really keyed their win, right, Charge?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Keene, we've seen him take over games by himself and, win games pretty much put his whole team on his shoulders. And, with Herd that being able to slow him, that was, big advantage for Herd. So if they can start carrying that into the next game, once we start doing that preview, Boeheim has a star player that no one's been able to slow down yet. So if they can bring that same mentality and kind of grit, we could see something very interesting here.
We'll get to that star player in just a second. Let's talk a little bit about Boeheim Army's actual path here. And again, we had talked about these two regions, the West Virginia and the Syracuse regions being the two toughest regions to get to. And you look at how Boeheim's Army got here, obviously knocking off fellow big bully Blue Collar in the final. Some interesting stories here, obviously, in keeping with this tournament's ethos of your team to your tournament. The 8 seed Big Five had a great run against Blue Collar. You almost won. Nerd team showed out. And surprise entry, Virginia Dream, who had to come in for Rudy White very late in the game, probably won a game, making that decision to bring them in look really, really, really good. Charge, how excited were you to watch that final game when Blue Collar U had that lead and the Syracuse was able to come back?
Yeah, no, obviously, I've been kind of picking Boeheim's Army as one of the top teams from the beginning of this. Blue Collar didn't look as good as they used to, even going back to that Big Five game. I think they won the game, but I think you saw some chinks in the armor at that point. And, they've had an amazing run, but Boeheim's just so battle-tested here. They've gone through a good, solid Gibson team, a Nerd team, a Blue Collar U team, and so to have them pull this off and pull it out, and what was just an epic classic game was a lot of fun to see, and their stars stepped up, and Blue Collars did not in that game, so that was all the difference.
What's interesting about this region too is the teams Herd that and Boeheim's Army seem to almost be the same kind of team, the same tough, hard-nosed shot making with a lot of size. So we were able to ask Herd that about playing what would basically be their mirror image and get their opinion on that. Let's let them speak about that.
Specifically, it's almost like looking at a mirror, two teams that are good inside and also tough defensively. Grant Riller has been insane in Syracuse. Carried them offensively, and they have the same thing you have of great bigs. They've got Christmas, they've got McCullough. So do you see like a little bit looking in the mirror against Boeheim's Army a bit?
Yeah, they have a great point guard. We have a great point guard. Personally, I think ours is better. I like our bigs better. They might outcoach us, but that's about the only place we're at a deficit because we're going to get them everywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I was self-depreciating there, talking about the fact that he probably isn't really going to add as much to coaching as someone like a Ryan Blackwell. But, Charge, look at these two teams. Do you see, like, teams – let me bring the stats page up comparing the two. You can see these teams are relatively similar. Same points per game, roughly. Same great defense. They're both, like, plus double digits in their 3 games. These teams both can score and defend with the best of them, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it and not mentioned it. I mean, they very well, evened out throughout the roster. I think Boeheim's probably has just a little more depth, especially if Blake's is back and uninjured. B.J. Johnson's back and uninjured. Those guys didn't really play much of a role in the second two Boeheim's games. I think that will be kind of determine what takes place here is, whichever team can obviously shut down the star, whether it be Riller or Elmore. And then, does the depth of Boeheim's Army ultimately push them over the top here?
Yeah, let's get into these teams a little more in depth briefly. Look at the stats here for Herd that. And obviously, they've had a pretty balanced attack. But, I mean, this is possibly the best combined backcourt in KBT, with the exception of the other team we might get to in a minute. Rob Green and John Elmore have been triggering this offense, both passing the ball. And to me, and maybe you can agree with this, the most impressive thing has not been their scoring, but their lack of turnovers. They are not giving it up, which is a very un-Marshall thing to do. Do you think that this might be one of the better backcourts in TBT at this point in the game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you start to go through team by team, I mean, all these guys have a duo that have done really well, whether it's Cumberland and Evans, Jefferson and Stevens. I mean, there's just so much talent on these final 8 teams. So, to say they're the best, it's going to be tough to say until we get to those particular matchups. But I think that's what's made a real difference. In the past, Elmore has, not had the depth behind him this year when you got a compliment with Rob Gray and JP Tokado. It goes a long way from putting the pressure off him, and he can go with the flow of the game and do the things he's got to do, whether scoring or facilitating. But yeah, they're definitely a dynamic duo.
Yeah, it's interesting too because you look at this, everybody's plus, no one's negative. And Ja'Cory Williams, who's obviously a great player, like if you actually have him down there as your sixth leading scorer on a team, that tells you the size and the depth of all of the good players they have here. So you can see they bring Kelly, Tokyo, Cook, and Williams up front. That's an insane front line to bring up. So, I mean, that's a really – so do you think the size has propelled Herd to give protection to their guards, which has not been the story in the past?
Yeah, I mean, they had, Kelly in the past. They had Ja'Cory in the past. And so, I think it's, a combination of the two. So I don't think it's one over the other. But, the team just really filled out the right places at the right spots. And, they're going to be a great game today.
And just to keep people updated, when I'm glancing around looking at the stadium, so Boeheim's Army has just entered the building. We've got Jimmy and a few other guys coming in. So Jimmy Boeheim and Boeheim's Army has now entered the stadium. They're walking around, about to start their shoot around. It is now around 3, and Heard that is completing their shoot around. So the court will be seated to the opponents. But let's get to these opponents. We got Boeheim's Army, and I mean, Charge. The story is Grant Riller. He's been a one-man. First of all, we all knew he was good. Did you have any idea he was this good?
Yeah, I mean, the guy, he's played in the NBA, so any guy who's kind of spent those type of time and minutes in the NBA, is going to be a solid player. So, but the kind of carry the team, I don't think we were expecting that because some of the depth they had, some of the other guys, backed out. Matt Morgan, well, not backed out in a bad way. They had other commitments, contracts, whatever the situation was. So they didn't have Malachi Richardson. They didn't have Matt Morgan. They didn't have Tyus Battle. So they really needed somebody to step up and carry the load here. And he was able to do that with the Bikes injury. So just a lot of situations they called on him to step up and carry the load, and he's absolutely done it.
Yeah, definitely. So you're looking at all of this when you're doing this. And so I think Grant Riller's definitely stepped up for them. He's been a really good player. So do you think that will be enough to carry them past Heard that?
I think the big thing is going to be the health of the team. If BJ Johnson's playing and healthy, Dwight Bike's playing and healthy, I think that's going to, make a big difference. If those guys aren't playing, then, I think I'd probably give the edge to Heard that. But if Boeheim's is whole, I'm liking Boeheim's depth just a little bit more.
So Odd actually told me he wanted you to pick against them because of that. So that's actually a good thing.
Yeah, and we know I will not pick Ott, so that's that.
Okay. So let's go ahead and let's get to the other games real quick. We're not making this a full preview because obviously we want to make sure people have time to watch the games. Let's get into this next opponent. So the Gutter Cat gang actually were able to beat Bleed Green. And first of all, George, did you see what happened with the Gutter Cat gang today?
Oh, yeah. So obviously everybody knows that you are not a fan of Louisville. And so in all our pregame activity and tapings, Hayner offered up whatever team could beat Louisville. He'd buy him drinks that night. And so, of course, Hayner, the good guy that he is, paid up, sent Brandon Foreman a nice bottle of Kentucky bourbon, I'm assuming. And I knew you weren't going to buy the Mr. and Mrs.
I tried to buy it.
Did you really? You were going to send
I tried to. I was going to send it because I actually want to support Russ Smith because while I hate Louisville, it's sports hate. It's healthy hate. It's not bad hate. Actually, I think Russ is amazing. So I wanted to buy it, but it was like 2 times the cost. I'm like, look, we run this on a shoestring, much like TBT does. So we have a limited budget. So my bounty budget was enough to buy Bullet, but not enough to buy Mr. and Mrs. So if Russ wants me to buy his stuff, make it just a little cheaper. They would have gotten it otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, Gutter Cat got through here. Really loaded region. The big story here, I think, was honestly the crowds. Like you were watching this on TV. I didn't get a chance to get there on TV. How good do those crowds look, Charge?
Yeah, I think they were all 5,000 plus, and like I said, we're talking about Russ and the Louisville team itself aside, because obviously I knew you weren't rooting for them, but I think it just overall was a fantastic environment and venue for TBT. I mean, reading the comments and the social media afterwards, the fans were just so appreciative that there was this Louisville TBT team back in the mix, and so it was great. The fans showed up. The commentators, I think it was Vosters and Greenberg there, if my memory serves me correctly,
Coach Seth
we're commenting consistently how engaged the fans were to the tournament. And so, real happy. I would be very, very shocked if they didn't go back to Louisville next year based on, the show of the team and to show up with the fans.
I'd be floored if they didn't, actually. I think that was a really good decision to go there. So, obviously, underdogs basically beat up Everline to make a credible threat to the Phil. The Phil beat up already, which we sort of think we want how credible they are in the future. We love Matt Machella, but maybe the Auburn team's time has come and gone. And obviously that first round matchup with Shell Shock and Gatorverse was a lot of fun. But the cream rose to the top. You got a 1-2. And basically Gutter Cat Gang and the Ville played a very intense, very entertaining, very choppy and turnover-filled slugfest at the end, which had to be about a 4-hour Elam ending. We're here in West Virginia. They had to delay the start of that game to the point where the players were getting cold. So the shooting on the court in Louisville caused the legs here to get cold, which is a pretty strange thing. Chard, how crazy was watching them miss shot after shot and turn the ball over at the end of that game?
Yeah, I mean, I was just dumbfounded at how chaotic it was, because the Elam brings a special element to the TBT that no one else does, and usually it's for other reasons than this. But I mean, it just shows you no game is ever over. I mean, Gutter Cat Gang missed 10 shots in a row field goals in a row before they finally got their last two, and of course, you're not going to get a good clean shot. They banked into 3-pointer to advance, and Louisville missed their last 5 shots, including Russ Smith, who missed 3 shots out of the last 5. They just needed 1 bucket to move on, but it was the longest Elam ending ever. It was the ugliest Elam ending ever. Missed free throws, bad fouls. I mean, you name it, this thing had it. But that's the beauty of it. All you got to do is win and advance. And Gutter Cat Gang had just enough gas in the tank to get us there.
Yep, and to get the bourbon. Also, the other side of the thing was a little surprising. I mean, I kind of thought HBCU would be better. You like the Air Raiders. But, I mean, toughness and experience won out, and Bleed Green made good on their earlier dance trip last year and was able to make the quarterfinals, even get 1 round further. So how impressed were we with Bleed Green's toughness?
Yeah, I mean, I think that everyone was shocked but not shocked by this. I think the Air Raiders they had that home court advantage. They had a great team. I think no one gave anyone in this region a chance, whether it be Bleed Green, Austin Zone, and Champman. I just don't think anyone gave anyone a chance but Air Raiders. But Bleed Green just kind of shows that toughness, not extremely deep of a team, but when you have Brandon Jefferson and Jordan Stevens doing the things that they do, I mean, they are hard to stop. They're physical, they're fast, they're going to show up, and just another impressive outing. And that's even minus a couple guys from last year who were very consistent and steady for them. So this team here, I think, now kind of cemented their place as a fixture in the TBT and a go-to team that's going to continue to deliver.
Okay, and speaking of Bleed Green, we have them on video talking a little bit about their run. Let's go ahead and let them speak for a little bit. Hey guys, Chard Chandler at Zoom the TBT, and I am here with Coach Andre Shaw of the victorious Bleed Green. Coach Shaw, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. And you?
Doing wonderful. I'm actually pulled over. We're floating between Dayton and Wheeling doing coverage, and you, however, will be in the car soon to Louisville. So first of all, Lubbock Regional Championship. How does it feel to be the TBT Texas champion?
Oh, it feels great, man. It feels great. Like, with everything that's been going on, UNT-wise, we had the coaching change, and our head coach, Grant McCaslin, takes the Texas Tech head coaching job. So to be in that regional, you would have liked to have played the Air Raiders, but to come out victorious in that region with what has transpired over the last few months has been amazing.
Yeah, definitely. They couldn't hold up their end of the bargain, though. So what can you do about that, right?
I know.
I guess they weren't built for it, right? You can talk now. You won, so you say whatever you want. But no rest of the wicked. When do you guys leave for Louisville?
So we leave Saturday. Saturday. It was good. we won that game. A couple of guys went home for a few days. We got the guys back last night, practice this morning. We'll practice again tomorrow, and we leave Saturday.
Okay, so there's advantage, disadvantage. So disadvantage is new court. Whoever is the Louisville champion will have played on that court 3 times. It'll be your first time. They'll actually have the cohesiveness of playing more recently, but at the same time, you'll have the rest and you'll have time to prepare and think about your opponent. So is this do those 2 advantages just sort of even out?
Yeah, I mean, those guys, the region just started. Those guys are playing right now, but again, we had a couple of days and some time off to rest. And I'm all about rest and keeping these guys fresh. So yeah, we got back to it. Like I said, we practiced today, we'll practice tomorrow. But again, we only have 8 guys. So keeping those guys fresh is number 1 for me.
I understand the rest. I'm getting older by the minute. So rest, even for any of us, is important. I understand that concept.
Yeah.
2 wins last year, if memory serves. I'm gonna make sure I get this right. 3 this year. So 5-1 in your initial 2 TBTs. I have that correct, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's quite the brand. Can you speak to how first time alumni teams struggle? You didn't have that problem the first time. You're going even further this year. Can you speak to how your roster has been able to get past that early slump that first-year TBT alumni teams often have in your second year?
We just have winners, man. When we put this roster together, we wanted to keep the core together. And we just, in talking with these guys, we really replayed that last Wichita State game, that last play where we needed that stop. We just played that over and over in our minds. And again, our mentality, we're going to be the toughest team out there. These guys' college careers at North Texas, they've won. We know how to get after it on both ends of the floor. So bringing that mentality back, bringing back the core guys, set you up with a formula for success. A lot of these guys went on to have great first-year pro careers or second year seasons. And again, I can't wait to get back at TBT because we know what we're capable of.
So let's talk about this. Louisville's a good first-time host. It's supposed to be really electric there. I haven't gotten there yet. There's a non-zero chance I get there once before this trip ends. But historic Freedom Hall. You looking forward to playing in Louisville?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Growing up, University of Texas and University of Louisville is, some of the schools that I idolize. I've never been to Louisville, but historic Freedom Hall and, I've watched those guys play in college, the Peyton Sievers, the Russ Smith. Russ Smith is a New York guy. I'm a New York guy. So it full circle moment.
Definitely. Now, talk a little bit about going to Louisville, drink of choice for celebrating. Would it be bourbon if you guys win?
Yeah, I'm a whiskey guy. Whiskey sour.
There you go. Whiskey sour. Okay, that's the drink of choice. There we go. There we go. One last question. I'll leave you with this. Obviously, Bleed Green has made themselves a brand in this, a great event, great team. It's been a real pleasure watching your team grow and compete in TBS couple of years. A real pleasure for everybody who's involved in the event. Obviously, you've been accessible. You've been fun. You play a hard-nosed brand of ball with great shooting. A lot of fun. University of North Texas is near Dallas. That's a hub. It's an easy place to get to. Good fan base. Lots of Texas alums. Lots of Texas school alums. Would it be feasible for North Texas to host this in 2024 with your track record?
I do. I think so. What we did last year, they were talking about hosting it this year. I'm not really involved in those talks, so I don't know the extent of it. But yes, that's something that I think, the more that we get into this thing, that's a legit conversation.
Coach Shaw, thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
So, that's a really credible run they've put together. Obviously, have you seen a team from such a small college be that tough? They have that DNA that Buffalo has, being a tough team. Sorry, we're going live. Now it's some pregame stuff. Charge, how tough do you see this team being?
Yeah, I think I heard you. The toughness is amazing, and then I think we talked about this with a lot of these teams that have success is just because you're from a small college, whether it be the JUCO team that showed up and played hard. D3 plays hard. They come out with a chip on their shoulder and just grind it out. Heard that's a small college, and they're out there, taking care of their business. So I think you get the right guys willing to play the right roles on the team, and these guys can compete with the best of the top D1 schools any day, anytime.
Definitely. Oh, hey, real quick, Ott, do you want to come on real quick? Charge is on. Okay, take the headphones. So we're gonna have Ott talk to Charge for a minute. You gotta take the headphones, buddy. All right, here you go.
Charge, what's going on?
What's going on, man? So we're 45 minutes from game time, right?
Yeah, about 50 on the clock, so we're getting close.
Yeah, we haven't made our official picks yet, Hayner and I, but we might as well talk about Heard That versus Boeheim's Army for my official pick. It's going to be a heck of a game. You're going to have a sea of green in the West Banco Arena. However, I'm going to lock into Boeheim's Army. I think
you can't give me a little 30 seconds to change your mind real quick?
Yeah, give me 30 seconds. Right now I'm going just
a
little more depth. Just a little more depth.
All right, the elevator pitch. We're going to block out. We're going to rebound. They're going to have to go zone like they did against Blue Collar U, except this time we're not going to miss 22 threes in a row. We're going to knock them down. We're going to be in Philadelphia. You need to switch over. We're confident.
Now, do you want me to switch over, though, with my track record of picking?
Yes, jump right on the bandwagon. We got room for one more, and we're going to roll that thing straight up the interstate to Philly.
All right. Yeah, short drive over there, so it should be fun. But, yeah, I can't wait to see what you guys do today. It's been a fantastic event, and, really excited to see you guys finish it off.
Appreciate you, Charles.
Take care, man.
That was Coach and Grand Poobah of Heard That, Ott Elmore, as requested. He was there. He took a little bit of time away from the prep. So what did he tell you? I actually had my headphones.
Yeah, basically, that gave a 30-second elevator pitch on why he's going to take down Boeheim's Army. And the gist was they're going to, play better defense. They're going to out-rebound them. But the big thing is when they get in their zone, they're going to shoot lights out, and they're not going to miss 22 three-pointers in a row. So they're going to, shoot them out of that zone and take care of their business.
There's a lot of room between shooting lights out and missing 22 in a row. So I'm curious what that's going to mean, because lights out is not 0 for 22. I mean, Blue Collar did everything besides hit the shots. You don't miss 22 threes and beat a high school team. So that's pretty crazy. Let's get back into this. So we're looking at this Gutter Cat Bleed Green thing. Thanks to Ott for coming on. Always a good guy to have on. Gutter Cat gang, obviously close games. They kind of screwed around a bit. They barely won a lot of their games. That game against the Ville was tight. They've actually not taken care of the ball. They've not shot well. They've done everything wrong, except they've won other games because they have the kind of talent, toughness need to close out tight games. So do you think they're going to have to play better to beat Bleed Green?
They're going to have to do a lot better to beat Bleed Green. It's that first game, they came out, got tested a little bit. QJ Peterson came out and, took care of business, but he really hasn't shown up in the second two games either. But they've just been very inconsistent. Will Cherry's struggled from shooting. I mean, he had a lot of attempts in the Elam end and had a bunch of misses. So they just haven't been consistent. They really haven't put it all together in one game on both sides of the ball, offense or defense. So, they do have the talent when you look down there and you see Peterson and, Will Cherry, Giroletti, Odiasi's a good big man. Roll can knock down some shots and almost started the fight in Louisville. So their fans were pretty cool. Every time he touched the ball, they were booing him. And they have the talent there. We just haven't seen their best yet. And so, once you're 3 games into TBT, you should be able to put it all in together. We just haven't seen that. So if they can do that, hats off to them. They're going to move on. But, the team I'm seeing right now, a lot of work to do.
Yeah, how's my sound? Are you hearing more music or are you hearing me?
I'm hearing all you. Don't hear much music.
Oh, good. Okay. Gotcha. Just man, sure, because they are starting to get the crowd hype. Starting to get some pregame music here. So that's what's happening courtside. Also now, Chris McCullough has joined Coach Blackwell and Jimmy Boeheim getting shoot around. So the Q's team is starting to get warm here at West Banco. And the guys from Heard That, the whole roster is getting their shots up. They're probably going to be finished their shoot around pretty soon. Both teams are to some degree on the court, though. Look at this Gutter Cats game. One thing these stats don't show is the turnovers. They've been coughing the rock up a lot in that last game. Can Bleed Green take advantage of that?
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to make it any easier, too. I don't think Louisville team that a lot of their turnovers were self-inflicted, but Bleed Green's going to be getting after them, and they're watching the game and seeing their opportunities of where they're at risk of turning the ball over. But it's going to be a tougher game, and if they can't protect the ball, then they're going to get blown off the floor there.
Got you. Now look at the Gutter Cat game. Look at Bleed Green. The one thing that concerns me is they're not that deep. That's defections. Shorter wasn't able to play because of his contract. So they're playing 6 guys, basically. The 2 guys are getting limited minutes, but they're playing basically 6. Can Gutter Cats take advantage of that lack of depth, or was the time off between the games going to be enough to give Bleed Green some energy in the tank?
Yeah, I think in the TBT with the games being so short, I don't think the depth is a big issue as long as you have the quality players behind it. Brandon Jefferson and Jordan Stevens are just phenomenal. Amazing players, and you got Reese Bell and Huntsbury behind them that can take care of their business. So that's going to shoulder the load. Yeah, I mean, if they get into a game and start getting worn down a little bit, it could be, but I think they'll be able to control their offense. You heard Coach Shaw talk about, make sure these guys are rested and taken care of. But, yeah, I think they have the right players, and so their depth, could come into play a little bit, but I don't see it being an issue for Bleed Green. They played 3 games already, know their rotation, know how they're going to do it.
Definitely. Okay, do we pick Boeheim's heard that? Who'd you pick?
Ott gave me the 30-second elevator pitch, and it was convincing. It sounded good, but I'm going to stick with my pick of Boeheim's Army for a couple reasons. The fact of it is, I think their depth is going to be a little bit more. As long as there's no issues with Bikes, no issues with BJ Johnson, I just think they're going to get a little deeper and be able to go a little deeper in their rotation this time and play a good game. But my fantasy team and my bracket challenge team really relies on Boeheim's Army beating her that today. So I'll pretty much get knocked out of both if that doesn't happen. So I'm sticking with Boeheim.
Yeah, I've got. Even though I actually like both teams, they're both great. It'll be a good game, but I also am going to go with my original pick, and I wouldn't have it either way. In this game, who do you got? You got Bleed Green. You got Gutter Cats.
Oh, I got Bleed Green.
Okay, we're going to disagree. I think the Gutter Cats have the DNA. I think they've proven they can do it through toughness. I think they're just got a little lucky. I think they're going to hold on and get to Philadelphia. Let's preview shortly and quickly, because I know you got to go. One last game. This will be the last super regional quarterfinal. This will be Friday Beers versus the Nasty Natty. Now, the Friday Beers got here in a fairly interesting fashion. They also had the thing about playing slow, not playing at their best early in almost every game, and then coming around and letting the cream rise to the top. And the story's got to be Gabe York's shooting. Like, has Gabe York been everything you could have hoped for from TBT?
Yeah, I mean, everyone who knows him and his style from watching him, especially last year in the G League, got a little bit of shot with the Pacers, knows what his game is, and that's exactly what it looks like. I mean, this guy's hardcore out there. He's got unlimited range, and he'll knock down some big shots and some clutch shots. And so, gigantic ad for those guys getting him this year, and he's really carried them. And you talked about starting slow, and I think where they've kind of missed this year is D. Boss really hasn't showed up very well the second 2 games. He played well the first game, and so I think that's going to be one of the critical points here. Fortunately for them, we talked about depth of teams. Is Rion Brown showed up and bailed them out yesterday without Brown. I think Beers ticket gets punched a little bit early, and they go on home. But they just got to play a little more consistent. We know just like. Gutter Cat Gang. I think these 2 teams are very similar. They have high-level overseas talent. They have guys who can play together, guys that can score. Just any given day, are they going to show up and bring it on both ends of the court?
And we'd be remiss if we didn't actually say some good words for Stalin. Mackey lost to Friday Beers, were actually 15-5 assisted turnovers. You don't usually see a team take care of the ball that well and still lose. So they were very credible in a tough loss. And we have to mention Indy Rising. It didn't end well for them. So their best player had to go back to his Canadian league. But a massive upset against the Red Scare. Does that mean that the Indy Rising is a much more credible team going forward in TBT next season?
I think they'll be consistent in the TBT going forward. I know there's a lot of debate about how they perform against Carmen's crew, and you and I had that conversation. I thought they'd get blown out by 20 plus, and that's exactly what happened. They did, miss their top scorer, so that's a different story. But yeah, no, they're good players. They're consistent players. They play together, obviously, and I think they'll be one of those teams that they get out of the 8 seed and they can consistently win a game, possibly 2 in the TBT going forward. They're great for the TBT, great fan base, and I'm not sure I'd be lying if I knew the reach of the Indian players across the United States, Canada, or the world, but it may enable them to start pulling in some different players, some start to upgrade some talent as well. But they played fantastically, and they'll definitely be a fixture in the TBT for years to come.
Definitely. Let's talk a little bit about how the Natty got here. And this is probably the surprise that they're at the lowest seed left. And not a lot of people gave them a great chance. But, I mean, the conversation starts with Evans and Cumberland, right?
Yeah, this one here, I think, surprised everyone. And the thing is, they've always been so good on paper. And this is one I think I've always liked Natty, but I've been just afraid to pick them because not all their guys have shown up in the past. And, they got knocked out first round by Fort Wayne champs last year. And so they just didn't have the history yet there. They had some names on paper that are frightening. They're very, very good players. But this year, they've put it all together. They've absolutely probably had some of the toughest competition, yet made it look the easiest out of anybody in the TBT. So they blew through 2 TMT, hostile environment with Zip 'em Up, finalists of America, new name, Program for Autism.
Yep.
So they played some insane teams and have made it look easier than anybody else. And so I think Nasty Natty right now is the team to beat in the TBT. Especially they're going to add Trey, and they'll be adding Trey Scott, so they get a little more size and rebounding too. But I have no reason to believe Nasty Natty's going to not move on here. So I kind of tipped my hand on my pick a little bit early on this one.
Interesting. Let's compare stats a little. Obviously, again, Friday Beers have been some competitive games. Natty really haven't. The stats are very mirrored. They're both taking care of the ball. But, this is really just going to come down to the shot making, right? Because you've got Friday Beers. Boss has struggled from the field. Well, we actually were able to catch up on the press conferences with Coach Adam Ross. Boston went 1 of 8 in their regional semifinal, the second round, and he still was able to get 7 assists to be a +6, which means he is still able to contribute despite a shot not falling. How important is it to have that balanced attack when your trigger man isn't going to still be able to contribute? Like, how important is it to have that kind of depth?
Oh, I lost you.
Oh, okay, let's try that again. So anyway, D-Boss has not been shooting well. He's gone 1 of 8 from the field in that second round game, but still is able to pass the ball and trigger the offense and find open shooters and make winning plays. How does that balance of depth help them get through all these games?
Yeah, obviously, Boston is called upon to, do a little bit of everything as the team needs it, whether it's scoring, whether it's facilitating. And, I think the most important thing is, he's got to find his spot and find a role in this team like he did in game 1, and that was lacking in game 2 and 3. And so ultimately, I think what the showdown comes down to when you're talking about Cumberland and Evans, can York and Boss raise their level to equal those two guys? Because I think there's a lot of pushes along the way. You have a nice big man battle with Julian Gamble, but I think Trey Scott is going to perform well there. But I think that's what this game is going to come to is can York and Boss outplay Cumberland and Evans?
And also, you probably see we're looking at the court. Grant Riller is now in the house, getting loose over there by the scorer's table. So the man of TBT, the guy putting up 26 a game, has entered the shoot-around for Syracuse. So their whole complement of players is here. So talking about great guards, you've got York, you've got Voss, you've got the size of Gamble. Dawkins is also doing complementary scoring. But I want to talk about Evans and Cumberland real quick for Natty. How dominant has that duo been? They've been insane in this tournament.
Yeah, they've been absolutely off the charts and, hitting big shot after big shot, clutch shots. Right now, Cumberland is almost up to 50 fantasy points per game, which is just unheard of. We've only had 2 50-point fantasy games so far this year. One was Cumberland, and the kid from Missouri, Porter has been our only 2 50-point fantasy games, but he's been knocking on that door. But he's averaging 48 and change, I believe, is the number for Cumberland. So he's just taking over every single game. And him and Evans, Evans, NBA guy, just shows why. And these guys get drafted into the NBA, what they could do in this type of game, in this type of an environment. But these guys have been dynamic, and if they truly have some recruits coming in to help them get over the top in this next game, that's gonna really be a tough team to beat.
Okay, your pick. We'll close on that. What's your pick in that last of the 3 quarters?
I'm going with Nasty Natty. I think their consistency has been in Friday beers. This one will sting a little bit. We'll be talking to Brian and Vinny, I'm sure, often about this. I just think they've been the more consistent team, and I think they've been the most battle-tested team. They beat some really, really good ball clubs and made it look easy. So I'm on Nasty Natty.
Natty's a really good squad again. Cumberland and Evans have been insane, and they're probably I probably should pick them. But one, I think the Beers are ready. I think they've been in this. I think they know what this is about, and I think they have a track record of year-to-year success as Armored Athlete. So I think they're going to rise to the top there. Plus, you'll never see me pick for Cincinnati as long as I live. I may hate Louisville, but I'm not a big fan of Cincinnati either. So I think the Natty goes down. And actually, really, I just hope the Natty goes down, if we're being completely honest. But anyway, so Charge, closing thoughts. Big super regional round. What do you think so far? We're almost there.
Yeah, no, this thing's gone by quick. I don't know if this is the shortest TBT ever for a full 64-team field. But we've had games every single day, and it's been action-packed. It's been fun. Hayner been out there hustling, driving in the car, doing interviews, going back and forth between Wheeling
1,400 miles Dayton this week.
And
1,400 miles in the car.
That Corolla, getting a workout, making it happen. So hopefully there's enough to get you back home to the city. But really enjoyed Hayner's coverage out there and great interviews to add to it. So appreciate you. This is the first year in a long time I haven't been to a game since the bubble season. So
just a bastard. Let's do it next year.
Things life happens.
We need Purdue. I know. Purdue needs to get a region so you can just go across the door. Basically,
yeah.
we
still
need
pulling
Butler
Indy.
to host.
I think Indy would be a great host city. Yeah, Butler would be a great one. Get that team back, and you got Fort Wayne champs there. You got Purdue there. So it's it is such a kind of centrally located city to a lot of other places. It'd be great. So TBT Indianapolis next year to do it.
Okay.
We are. A handful of games left. We're right down the home stretch.
Okay, so this has been our pregame show. You're 30 minutes from tip, and what's going to be an electric regional, super regional final between the number 2 seed, Boeheim's Army, the Syracuse champions, and the number 4, heard that, the West Virginia champions. Next time you hear TBT, it'll be on ESPN today. Tim and Tucher on the call, good friends of the program. Make sure you listen. And this has been Charge and Hayner signing off.
Hope you enjoyed listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner. Subscribe to YouTube, follow on Twitter, and give us your money.